Basically what I'm going to do, say I've got some brass, it's recently been shot. I do this different than most people do. I'll throw this in here, give it some shots of a lubricant, shake it around, let it sit for a few seconds. But then the trick here is, I'm going to take my first one, I'm going to put it into my first station. When I depress, it's going to bring that shell up into the size die, size that die, and deprime it. And then when I come down on a Dillon, if I keep pushing, it's going to prime it. But I don't want to go to that point yet. So I take the shell out, and I put it in one of my bins. And I repeat that process with all my stuff. Deprime it and size it. That's all I'm doing. And I put that in a bin till I'm all through. Now this is different than the way the Progressive was designed. And I'm going to show you why I do it that way. Okay, so our next step, we've taken our shell casings that we have sized. The next thing that we have to do is we have to check to make sure that the shell is the right length. So what we're going to do, I like to use this little tool in a drill. We check it up in there, and then we use this. This is actually a 223 size, and we just insert it and drill, and it has these carbide cutters that trim it down, and that makes for a sharp edge, so you want to deburr it. So we're going to run that inside and out, and that treats the edge so it's nice and smooth. The other thing that sometimes you'll run into is a crimped primer pocket. The crimped primer pocket has a crimp that goes around the primer, and you have to remove that crimp. So you can swage it. I have a swage tool from Dillon, it works great. But I've also found what works really good is to take a countersink and just chuck it up in your drill and just give it a nice little countersink, and you'll be able to look at it, and what you want is just a nice little roll into the primer, and that's just a fast, easy way to get rid of that. The next step that I do, because these have our size lubricant all over them, they're all kind of greasy, so I'll tumble them. Typically when I get done shooting or I pick up a bunch of brass, I'm going to tumble it, and I'll usually use walnut shells to tumble, and that's kind of a coarse tumbling media. And then I'll do a final tumbling, and it's usually with a corn cob media, and I just dump my brass in there, dump my media, and then I'll let it tumble, and I'll let it tumble for 3-4 hours until I get a nice bright case that's ready for loading. These tumblers are probably the best that I've found. You can really load a lot of brass in there. I'll bet you can do 250, 300 rounds in the bowl, and it fits just great. So I just kick that on, let it sit 3 hours or so, and then we'll pull them out. Okay, so now you can see we have all our nice bright brass. It's all clean, it's deburred, it's deprimed. This is ready to be built up. So now the reason why I do this, and a progressive press is made to complete a bullet from start to finish, but I interrupt that one thing where I go back and I re-clean my brass. And the reason why I do that, I want a nice shiny case. I don't want the lubricant all over it. I don't want all of that stuff. So basically what I'm going to do here now is everything except for the sizing process. So this is a progressive press, so basically what's going to happen is this shell casing is going to travel around to different stations, and as it comes out, it's going to be a completed round. So I'm going to show you the first thing. So we're not going to size this. If I were to pull this all the way up, it's going to size the brass. We don't need to do that because this is already done, but we still need to prime it. So as you can see, we don't have a primer. And what's cool about this press is it's all automatic. So I push forward, I just primed my case. So now my case is going to travel around, and it's going to get a powder charge. Okay, so now I have gunpowder in the case. Now as I go to my next station, I can take a bullet. This is a 55 grain full metal jacket bullet, place it on the top, and as I ram the stroke, it sets the bullet. Now here is where it's, you know, getting important. You really need to know, you need to have a good manual, you need to know the right depth, how you're going to do all that, and seat your bullet, because it's all got to be set up the right way. And I'm not going to go into that here. You can find that in your manual of the press, or when you buy your dies. There's a lot of stuff there. Okay, our next station, we rotate around, is a crimp station. Now this is really important, say in a semi-automatic weapon, or you know, something that's going to have an automatic feeding. And what it does is it runs a crimp around the case, so you get a nice smooth feeding, so it's not going to hang up on anything. And it's really important. Now, a lot of die manufacturers, they don't have that size die. A lot of times it's sized with the bullet seating, and that's okay. I really like the Dillon products because they break it all out separate, so I can control a lot more. It's a lot easier to get a good even crimp and not crush the case or things like that. The only issue possibly with a Dillon die set is they're not in all of the, say, more exotic cartridge types. These are, you can get 308, 223, 9mm, you know, more of the military stuff, 30-06, whatnot like that. But say 300 Ultra Mag, you're not going to be able to find it. So that's just being said, you can still do that bullet seating and crimp all in one station, and that's just fine. Now this is what's really cool about the Dillon product. So I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to kind of show you this running. So we're going to prime it. We're going to rotate over. Now this is in the powder charge, but I can powder it, and now I have a primer here ready, so I can prime it. And then this one has powder in it. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to seat a bullet. At the same time, this one's getting powder, and I just had a primer come up so I can prime it. Now I rotate. Okay, this one's going to seat a bullet while this one's crimping and this one's getting powder, and I just had a primer come up. Now every rotation is going to be a completed shell casing, and I'm just going to go through this. We'll do a few and show you. You can really cycle through some ammo this way. And I like the end result of this because as I get done, let's just take this through the process here. I'm going to finish these out. As I'm done, I've got a really nice, clean, completed shell, and it's good for storage. I don't have that grease all over it. You know, it's not going to gather dust and dirt. They're clean. They're ready to go. So that's why I break that step out separate. I hope that this was, you learned something. I do things a little differently, and that's okay. I would say go get a Dillon. This Dillon press, this is a 550B, and to me it's the all-around one that I like. I have a pistol automatic case feeder, and to be honest, I don't use it all that much. If I was sitting here and had to go through 1,000 rounds of 9mm, I might get it up and running, but typically this is the way I run the press. I have two presses set up. Typically I've got 308 in one and 223 in the other, but I can change them down to do other things. I've loaded 9mm, 380 auto, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45, 44 mag, 38 special, 357. I mean, you can do so much, and it's really cool because all you have to do is buy a caliber conversion kit, and it comes with a tool head. You put your dies in there, you set your powder measure, and you just put it away. And it is so slick. It really works well. Hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to follow this video with more other loading. We're going to see if we can't load some 50 BMG. We'll do some 308 stuff. I'll show you a lot of cool stuff. And then I'm going to show you some of my prepper side, I guess, if you will. I'm really into preparedness, being emergency prepared. And I'm going to kind of go into what I've done with some of my kits and some of the training that I've had. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this has been beneficial, and give me some good feedback. Thanks.